second. I'm not on. Just make that one. Okay. All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes, indeed. Yep.
It's 6:30, so we'll call the meeting to order. Before we start anything, I'll have a little excerpt to read from the city. Due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis, and in accordance with the Governor of City News Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the Governor's Emergency Order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing the Zoom platform for this meeting, where all members of the board will have the ability to communicate, and the public will have access to watch the live YouTube video at www.youtube.com/LaconiaNH. Listen to this meeting through dialing the following number: 1-312-626-6799 or 1-646-558-8656, or participate with the Zoom app. Webinar ID 841-2128-2874. Webinar password 941215. Providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public on how to access the meeting using Zoom, and instructions are provided on the City's of Laconia's website at it's not listed there, but it's www.laconianh.gov. If anybody has a problem, please call 524-3877 extension 249 or email at planning@laconianh.gov. D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have rescheduled at that time. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, also please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Carol, do you want to do the roll call?
Stacy
Here.
Sarah
Peter
Burnett,
Burnett, here.
not here. Peter Burnett,
Go. Sorry, wrong Peter.
Dean Hanson,
Here.
Peter Stewart,
Here.
Paul Dugan, is not here. Mike Wood,
Here.
Mark Haynes,
Here.
Bruce Staney,
Here.
Bob Himmel is not.
Paul Dugan just logged in.
Okay.
So, and Karen Stanford will be doing our minutes this evening. And I, Robert Moore, am the assistant planner for the city of Laconia. So every year we do a capital improvement program, which is comprised of 3 members of the planning board, 3 members of the city council, and 4 members of the general at large. It is standard practice before we really start the meeting that the board or the committee elect a chair and a vice chair.
I'd like to nominate someone, I'm not any rocket scientist, but I do understand the value of a well-connected chair. So being as it's not an electric chair, I would nominate Mr. Peter Brunette.
I hoped you were leading somewhere else with that, but at least it's not an electric chair.
Yes.
And I'd love to nominate Mike Foote as the vice chair.
I'll second both of those.
We have a nomination and a second for both a chair and a vice chair, of the chair being Peter Burnett and the vice chair being Mike Foote. With that, can we have a roll call vote?
Stacy Tucci,
Yes.
Peter Burnett,
Yes.
Dean Anderson,
Yes.
Peter Stewart,
Yes.
Paul Dugan,
Yes.
Mike Foote,
Yes.
Mark Haynes,
Yes.
and Bruce Staney.
Yes.
With that, the meeting is yours.
I'd like to announce my resignation as the meeting's mine. Yeah, well, that means I have to find the agenda now. You all should have the packets that Rob sent out. If you don't have them right in front of you, I'm sure he can put one in front of you. I gotta find it now, because I know I left that tab open somewhere.
Yep, so I gave the packets to everybody, and it should go through all the submissions that all the departments had, and it's organized by each department, and there's draft scoring sheets in the back of the packet,
Yep.
along with a schedule and a scoring criteria sheet,
Okay,
and this year's approved capital outlay projects, just so that everybody has a view of what was approved by city council this year for CIP projects.
so if we look at this meeting schedule for this year, does anybody have any conflicts or any meetings that they know right now they're not going to be able to attend in case we need to reschedule anything? I see we're scheduled. The next one is the 8th, 15th, 22nd, the 29th. Oh, there's no meeting the 29th. That's the ranking sheets too. I don't know, Mr. Dugan. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's the process is really straightforward. As you can see, excuse me, each of the departments makes submissions to this committee with their suggested rankings. And then we take notes, and we're using this nifty-difty scoring system that we've developed over the years. We submit, we exchange, shall we say, each other's rankings, and then we try to come up with a final submission. It's then submitted to the planning board. Rob, I'm seeing, I just want to be sure I understand when we scroll down past scoring criteria and the budget, then we get into the presentations, starting with parks, right? The CIP rank that is indicated next to the item is the rank from last year?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so that's a useful tool. Does anybody have any questions about, the process, the procedure, any of that?
Peter, this is Peter Stewart. I have a question about the sheet before the parks sheet.
The scoring criteria or
No,
the budget?
the
page?
budget. So if we
Okay.
look under fiscal year 2021, under the column 2021 department request,
Yep.
I see that the manager and council have approved some of these items. Can you explain that?
I'm sorry, all I heard was I see that the manager,
The manager and council columns indicate that some of these items have been approved. I don't understand that.
some may have been approved for the previous year and carried over. Is that true, Robert?
So what happens is we present, we score, we rank all of these submissions, and then they get sent up to the city manager, and the city manager puts his recommendation next to those. And then when it goes forward in the budget process, that whole information gets sent to city council, and city council may decide to fund one of those or may not decide to fund one of them. So usually they find out they have a finite amount of money and they decide they're going to fund, say, the top 5 or 6, say, or there's 10 or 15 that they don't want to fund, and there's something that ranked a little bit lower that they decide that they want to bump up because they might feel that there's a more of an urgent need for it. So there's going to be some.
Rob, if we look at the DPW, for instance, and it says parking garage annual inspection, 20,000, has the council approved that for 2021?
From what I'm reading in this budget, I would say no, but luckily we have a couple counselors here that might be able to give us some insight on that one.
Okay.
I'm not aware that it's been approved for 2021. It was approved for 2020. And that may be what this reflects, is that it was done for the present year and not for 21.
Or 2020. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And I have a question now. I noticed that some of these items say that the city manager recommends this one. Is that a new addition to our process? The city
No,
manager recommendation?
that's always been there.
Always been there?
Yeah.
Well, please don't tell them then. I'd never noticed.
Something tells me I don't think you'd have hurt feelings.
No, I guess not. I've never seen it like in bold like that before. But that is good to know, obviously. And we scroll through these and you can see that there's most of these are necessary. The question really is how necessary and what the timing of it is.
Peter, sorry, one more question.
Sure.
My office might be involved in a couple of these projects. I'll have to abstain, I would guess, from them.
Well,
if there's a vote.
Yeah, I don't see that. Yes, if the standard obviously is if you had any pecuniary interest in the outcome. So the higher something is ranked, the more likely it will be funded. So yeah, that should be no problem. We can make sure the record reflects that you're not.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. I'll never forget this. The one that always gets my attention is maintain and repair city streets. And I've often wondered how they come up with this number, because everyone knows that $1.6 million is not. I mean, somebody's going to have to be going through and making selections. Because there's got to be more than $1.6 million worth of needed repairs to the city streets as we sit here right now. I'm sitting on a short street that's always going to be on the bottom of the list because it's so short, but it's just being pummeled by heavy truck traffic and trailers and stuff like that. And I'm sure that many of our fellow citizens are looking out their front doors when this comes up and says, yeah, when are you going to get to our street? So I'd be curious to know what process the Public Works Department uses once they get their 1.6 to decide which roads need to be repaired. And the other thing that I noticed was is it 40,000 for sidewalk repair construction? I don't think I think they spent that on one intersection during this past construction season. But
I think 40,000 is almost just one.
yeah, well, I know, but of course, I've never been fond of the phrase sidewalks to nowhere, but that's another story. All right. Any other questions or comments on the capital improvements program committee decision-making, or what's up next? Because we really don't have much else we can do this evening, absent a departmental presentation.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course, that's what this meeting is all about.
So obviously I'm new, excited to join, but the question is, how many of these projects, or any of them been carried over and not carried out due to like COVID? Or if they were already approved, are they getting rolled into the next year or?
Well, those are, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that Rob would know that either. I would imagine that when the departmental heads come in and the representatives and make their presentations, that there will be a number of things that we may have provided, we may have ranked highly in the past, but never got built. You have to remember that all we are acting in is an advisory capacity to the city council, to assist them in coming up with the priorities, because there's always a greater demand than there is supply of money. So, it's a good question. It's one that we're probably going to ask them a few times. And I suppose if you went through this and compared it to last year's, you'd probably, a couple of projects, you would immediately realize, oh yeah, they probably didn't get to that one this year.
Yeah.
But
if you look under one of the departments under the type of project, there's a column, and it's got N for new project and M for modified project. It should give you a good indication of which ones have been not funded yet or carried the way through, because they're just modified from the previous year.
on the spreadsheet, you mean?
On the spreadsheet,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
Public Works has a very good, they have some extra data in there on their back sheets of, they've moved, Russ Anderson has actually indicated which ones he's moved to different fiscal years, and things that have been paid for with other funds. So he's got really good information in his, if you take a look at that one. And he'll be very happy to discuss every project. He loves to discuss his projects.
Could I just interject?
Sure.
The council had funds available this year as a result of grants, things that we had appropriated funds for, and then grants came along, et cetera. We had a pocket of money that was available for projects. We postponed expending those funds because of COVID-19 and whatever costs might be associated with that. Recently, the council has started approving some of the projects that were put off. So some of what you see in this list may well be funded by the time the department heads come in here with those funds that the council had available. So it'll be important to ask those questions about, what projects may be on the list that are no longer needed, and get those sort of out of the way as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's a good point, Councilman. That's a good point. This has not been a usual year, and I think all the city employees, including those in the room, need to be praised for having to adapt on the fly to so many unforeseen circumstances. Putting aside the question, of course, of how much of this was unforeseeable, The fact is that it blindsided the government as a whole. And I know we are certainly grateful for the assistance that we've gotten from the state and the federal governments. But it could, some of these projects have been like in the works, on the drawing board, whatever metaphor you want to use, for a long, long, long time. And they all have a great deal of merit. I think the most important thing about this committee is that it lets the public in an indirect way have some input before the budget process really gears up, because as you well know, Councilman, once it hits the city council, it becomes a more politically driven process. It has to be. I mean, you're the legislative branch of government, and that's why we, elected you guys, is to take all that heat. Part of the reason for having a committee like this is that it takes some of the heat off our elected representatives in that scenario, because you can point to this and say, well, this project's been ranked pretty high for a couple of years and we've never funded it. Maybe it's time. So I just use as an example that's near and dear to my heart, the Bond Beach project. We were literally losing real estate up there to erosion. There was exposed ledge. And they went in this year and they fixed the drainage problem. And they're coming back this year to take care of the bathhouse issue and the sewage, the septic issue. But the point of the matter is, that's a project that I know that Public Works has been wanting to, not Public Works, that Parks has been wanting to do for a long time. And it finally happened. And I can say just from personal experience that the public response to it was great. And it wasn't a multi-million-dollar project. And I'm pretty sure we did it in-house, right? I think DPW did that with our own crews. So all the more remarkable and all the more praiseworthy for the city's employees to have a crew that can go out there and do major, this isn't just landscaping, this was a major drainage problem. And to deal with it and to make the site look in as good shape as it was at the beginning of the season this year, early in the season, maybe not the very beginning, but I mean, and to continue to follow through with it is admirable. And of course, the Public Works does that on a much larger scale every year. Every year, there's somebody that, like me, that says, when are you going to pave my street? I'm just going to have to move to Union Avenue. That's all there is to it. Well, maybe too late, right?
New condos out there.
Yeah. But anyway, good questions, good comments. Anybody else? No? All right then. When's our next meeting, Rob? I know I just said it, but I don't want to go back to that screen.
The next meeting is going to be October 8th, and it's not on the sheet, but you should be hearing presentations from the Water Department and from Public Works that evening.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll be a good one.
It'll be good.
That's a quick way to get out of the way the big question in everyone's mind: how long will construction season be next year? Somebody said a couple of years ago, and I'll never forget it. I think it's a brilliant observation, and it's kind of funny, but it's true, that New Hampshire only has two seasons: winter and construction. So we're at the end of construction, but we get another month. So, all right, then if nobody else has any other business to conduct, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 6:56 p.m.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. I don't think we need a roll call vote for a motion to adjourn. So thank you all for your service, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you all.
Check
Thank
your
you.
inboxes and
Yep.
keep you posted. Thank you very much for everybody. Bye.